The story begins with Joseph, who had an injury in his childhood, which has caused him many challenges, and as a result he walks with a limp. Joseph is currently 46 years old and lives with his mother because of his poor health. He is also a teacher, working at the town school, where he teaches children. Joseph recently learns that after the semester ends, the town school will be shutting down, and all students will have to travel 50 kilometers away for their education. Today, Joseph is at his school, and a new student named Katherine joins the class. Katherine is a very beautiful student, so much so that everyone is captivated by her presence. Joseph also has a girlfriend who works at the same school named Rosalie. In the evening, Rosalie is having dinner at home, where her son, who is also Joseph's student, is discussing the school closure with her. They talk about trying to find jobs in the city since there may be opportunities there. However, Rosalie is hesitant, as the city is too far from her home, and she cannot manage such long commutes. Joseph is unsure of his next steps, so Rosalie suggests he could work on her farm, but Joseph isn't fond of that idea. The two have been together for 6 years. Rosalie then asks Joseph if he will marry her, and though Joseph loves her deeply, he's unable to express it fully. He simply asks her not to leave him. The next day we see Rosalie's son, Robert, talking with Katherine. Katherine asks him if Joseph is his father, to which Robert replies that his mother and Joseph are somewhat involved. After school, Katherine arrives at Joseph's home with her father. Joseph used to take care of horses for wealthy people in the town, and they would leave their horses with him. Katherine also has a horse, and had come to leave it with Joseph. Katherine's father pays Joseph, but Katherine hesitates to leave her horse, as she loves it very much and wants to spend more time with it. She even wants to ride it, but her father is in a hurry. Joseph reassures him that he will drop Katherine home. After her father leaves, Katherine asks Joseph if she can come every day, to which Joseph responds that she's welcome anytime. Katherine compliments him, saying he is a great teacher, but Joseph mentions that this is his last year teaching. Curious, Katherine asks what Joseph plans to do next. Joseph didn't know the answer to this. He had a hobby of hunting. One day, after returning home from hunting, he saw a doctor sitting beside his mother, as she had been unwell. His mother had cancer and didn't have much time left. If Joseph chose to get further treatment, his mother could live for 2 or 3 more months, but he didn't want to give her any more pain. The next day, when Joseph returned home after teaching at school, he saw Katherine lying there. Katherine noticed him and started talking to him, asking questions about the place. As Joseph was answering her, Katherine began taking off her clothes, which made him very uncomfortable, so he got up and left. But after going a little distance, he changed his mind, returned to Katherine, and told her that they should have an affair. Afterward, Joseph asked her if she had other boyfriends before him. Katherine replied, "Yes, I did have boyfriends before, but I like you the most." The next day, while Joseph was with Rosalie, he was sitting and thinking about Katherine. Seeing this, Rosalie asked what was going on, and Joseph told her, "I've spent my whole life with you, and I love you." Rosalie liked hearing this. That night there was a meeting with the city school, where they discussed which teachers had the necessary education. If the school closed, teachers could teach in other schools in the city. However, Joseph didn't have a degree, although he had been teaching for many years, and had plenty of experience. Yet, without a degree, that didn't matter, so they didn't offer him a job at the city school. Angry, Joseph cursed at them and left. Later that night, as Rosalie and Joseph were lying together, Rosalie told him it was time they got married. Joseph replied that he wanted to make her happy. Rosalie said she was already happy with him. Joseph then asked if she was happier with him than with her husband, to which Rosalie didn't respond, making them both feel upset. The next day, a doctor came again to check on Joseph's mother. The doctor mentioned that Katherine's father was also a great hunter, and had said he'd seen a wolf. Before leaving, the doctor handed Joseph his gun, saying, "You keep this gun. I'm old now, so you can hunt with it." The next day, Joseph is coming back from school, and notices that same wolf again. He reaches home and finds Katherine waiting for him. Katherine approaches Joseph and initiates her affair with him, once again making him work on her field. Later, when Joseph goes to his mother, she asks how he is doing. Joseph replies that he is fine. These days, he was quite happy, but his mother still comes up to him and says, "Rosalie came to see me. She talked to me and told me that you aren't marrying her. Are you waiting for me to die?" Joseph responds saying, "My job is about to end, and because of this, how can I keep her? Who will take care of her?" His mother tells him, "Don't think like that. After I'm gone, you can sell this house and move to Rosalie's farm to work there." Joseph also had a large coin pot filled with money. His mother says, "If you sell them, you could even have a nice honeymoon. Make your life better now." Joseph likes this idea. The next day at school, Joseph is helping students memorize poetry and asks Katherine to describe a painting. Katherine says, "You don't need experience to feel something." While Katherine is explaining, Rosalie enters. Joseph decides to end the class, and the students submit their poems. Katherine's poem says, "Meet me right now." Afterward, Joseph meets Katherine and takes her in his car, heading home. Joseph says, "Don't flirt with me at school. When you called me urgently, I got scared, thinking maybe you were pregnant." Katherine laughs and says, "It's nothing like that," but then she teases him, saying, "Yes, I am pregnant." Joseph's heart skips a beat, and he stops the car to step outside. Katherine starts laughing, saying it was just a joke. Angered, Joseph says, "I'm never coming to you again." Katherine tries to tease him on the road, and eventually he takes her home. Later, they both take a bath bath in the pond, expressing their love for each other. The next morning, Katherine's father visits Joseph and says, "I heard you're also a hunter. Why don't we go hunting together?" They head into the forest, and Katherine's father tells him, "I only hunt as much as I need." He mentions seeing certain animals who hunt more than necessary. He says it would be beneficial to hunt such animals. He describes these animals as looking similar to dogs. Joseph listens carefully, worried about what Katherine's father would do if he knew the truth about him. Joseph's mother's health had been worsening lately, and in the midst of this, Joseph noticed that Robert and Katherine had become close friends. Katherine asked Joseph if he was going to marry Rosalie, to which Joseph replied that no one should find out about them. Katherine promised to keep the secret, and soon, she and Joseph began to grow closer again. However, one day when they were together, a doctor saw them. Joseph decided to talk to the doctor about it, and the doctor scolded him, saying that what he had done was foolish and would lead to nothing. Joseph admitted that he was only doing it for fun, as he had never taken such risks in his life and was enjoying it now. He felt no remorse for his actions. One day, Joseph and Rosalie went to a cafe, where they saw Robert and Katherine playing together. Seeing them, Katherine came over to Rosalie and remarked that her son was very smart, but seemed depressed lately. She mentioned that the idea of Joseph marrying Rosalie didn't sit well with him. Joseph told Katherine not to worry too much about it. Later, Joseph and Rosalie returned to her home, where Rosalie wanted to be affectionate with him. However, Joseph suggested that they stay in the car rather than going inside. Rosalie didn't feel comfortable with the idea of being intimate in the car, and when she refused, Joseph grew angry and drove back home. That night, Joseph's mother came to him and questioned what he was doing with his life. She knew about him and Katherine. Joseph replied that sometimes one has to do bad things just to have fun. His mother didn't take the matter too seriously and let it go. That night, with heavy rain pouring outside, Joseph went straight to Rosalie and told her that he wasn't enjoying their relationship anymore. He said everything they did together felt boring, and that he wanted to travel to different places with her like she used to with her first husband. He wanted to have fun with her, just as she had with her late husband. Joseph had watched her marry his friend, who later died in the war. Joseph had spent his entire life seeing Rosalie with someone else, and had always felt envious of them. Now that Rosalie was with him, he wanted to live the life he had always imagined with her. After sharing all these feelings with her, they became close again and embraced their relationship fully. Last night, Joseph's mother passed away, and Katherine also attended the funeral. At school, Rosalie was checking all the letters that had been written by people, and she found a letter from Katherine addressed to Joseph. She read the letter and discovered that Katherine and Joseph were having an affair. Rosalie was furious and confronted Joseph, saying, "I dedicated my entire life to you, and you did this to me." Joseph responded, "You cost me so many years. I wanted to live my life, to enjoy my youth." Hearing this, Rosalie was heartbroken, and she angrily walked away, crying. Later that night, Katherine visited Joseph and proposed marriage, but he declined, saying he still loved Rosalie. Katherine, upset, warned him, "You'll pay for this." Afterward, Joseph went to Rosalie's house to apologize, telling her, "I only want to be with you. Think of me however you want, but I'm staying with you." He ended up spending the night there. The next day, Joseph's friends came to Rosalie, trying to convince her to forgive him. They said, "This girl Katherine is strange. Yes, Joseph made a mistake, but he's accepted his fault, so you should forgive him." Rosalie broke down in tears, but had not yet forgiven Joseph. Her son, who had always wanted Rosalie and Joseph to break up, was pleased. At school, he asked Joseph, "What was my father like? Why did he leave us?" "No one forced him to join the army." Joseph explained, "Your father was better than me at everything. He was my best friend, but he was frustrated with his town, which is why he left." Before leaving, Robert warned Joseph, "Tonight, Katherine's father is coming to see you." This scared Joseph, who then took out his gun and hid in his own home. Joseph meets Katherine's father, who asks him, "What are you doing here?" "I just want to talk to you." Her father explains that his daughter had done similar things in the city, which is why they brought her here. Katherine had told her father that Joseph intended to marry her, but Joseph clarifies that he has no such plans and believes she will find a suitable man. Katherine's father then says, "She's drawn you in as well, but you still haven't realized it." Before leaving that night, Katherine visits Joseph and asks why he doesn't want to marry her. Joseph explains that there's a significant age difference between them, and she should find someone else who could make her happy. He tells her they've had a great time together, but he can't continue this way for long. Katherine is saddened, wondering if she did something wrong. Just then, Joseph notices a sudden fire outside. Katherine had set the animal sheds ablaze, and Joseph tries to save them. Later, Joseph confronts Katherine about her actions, and she says she assumed he would save them. After that, Katherine leaves Joseph's life. Joseph decides to leave everything behind and go to Rosalie. He sells his coin collection, hoping to marry Rosalie and take her on a honeymoon. When he meets Rosalie, she tells him, "I know you love me, but for years I ignored you." Joseph feels remorseful about his past actions with her. Rosalie mentions that he shouldn't have committed to Katherine, which was the reason he was with her. Joseph acknowledges this might be true and expresses his desire to spend his life with Rosalie, sharing all his dreams and happiness with her. Since Katherine has left, Rosalie is willing to be with Joseph. She forgives him, and they go to a place Joseph always wanted to visit. Finally happy together, they decide to marry, and with this, the story comes to an end.